The red Komodo has some incredible features that are heavily talked about, including the global shutter, the dynamic range, the red RAW codec that you can record in. And all these things are amazing, but some of the overlooked pieces are the fact that it has autofocus and the app that comes with it and just the amount of control that you get with that. And so those are actually two pieces that I want to talk to today, and actually how those two are actually coming together. So there's a new app, the Red Control kind of beta app that is out. And so on your iPad, you have full control now using this app. And one of the most helpful features that I have found has been the kind of manual autofocus pulling feature. And I say a combination of the two because it actually is using autofocus in the camera. It's connecting to your camera and you're actually able to pull focus on a focus wheel, and you're able to do that wirelessly from your device, as you would kind of as like a first AC with a focus knob, but you're actually doing it digitally. And instead of there being manual kind of focus motors that are being engaged, it actually does this all through the autofocus system. And so this is kind of cool. I wouldn't say that it's like the best feature for every single application, but I think it does kind of push the boundaries a little bit, and it is really interesting what they're doing. So let's go ahead and dive in and let's see what this app can do. So I have the app open right here. If I'm looking down, don't worry about it. I'm just looking at the app, trying to see what I'm doing, but I'm still gonna be talking to you guys. So here we go, we're in the app. You can see that I am rolling here. And so we're gonna go ahead and dive into this tab over here, this kind of manual focus feature. So you'll see it's actually really, really fascinating. So if we're actually in a recording mode and we enable peaking, now we can see where everything is peaking. And if I start to adjust this knob, you'll see that our focus starts to change. And I wouldn't say that it's like fully immediate. There's a tiny bit of a delay. It's not bad. It's not as responsive as if you had like a Nucleus M or something like that, for sure. But you know, for having this included in an app, pretty good. And so the cool thing is obviously you can, you know, creatively make decisions and just manually rack focus in, what have you, and rely on peaking. You can see it pretty clearly, all the kind of like focus peaking. And so it's pretty decent as far as, you know, being able to dial that in. But the really cool thing too is that you are actually able to set points. And so I'm actually going to clear all here. And now, so if we set a point, say on me, and we dial that in, we nail focus, we set a point, and then say, let's zoom out, or pull our focus out and lock onto the kind of like railing on this bookshelf that it's kind of shooting through, and we set that as another point. Now what we can do is we can actually select the red point, which was our starting point, and it'll rack focus back to me. And I can press the orange and it'll rack focus back. And so you can have these precisely dialed in points, and you don't have to manually you know, try to nail it as you're recording. What you can do is you can actually set those points, and then you can just click between them and it'll rack it perfectly. You know, I can come back to me now. Perfect. And it locks on exactly where I set that parameter. And so I found this actually really useful. This isn't great for like every shot. I wouldn't say if you're on a gimbal and you're having to, you know, very closely follow what the camera operator is doing. I don't think this is the app for that. I think if you're in that scenario and you have a crew big enough that you're actually doing that, get a Nucleus M, get something that is, you know, has been refined over time, and it's fully real time. You know, there's absolutely minimal delay. That is going to be your best tool. I fully believe that. But on the flip side, there's scenarios where you're a one-man band and you don't have a wireless follow focus. And I think this is actually super useful in a lot of scenarios. If you're locked off in a tripod like this and you're needing to rack focus, this is a great tool to do that. I think it's actually kind of easier and more precise than just doing it manually. It's definitely going to be better than if you're just using the lens and racking focus. It's going to be more precise than that, at least in my opinion. And the last scenario is in a situation like this where I'm talking to the camera, and I purposely set up this shot so that it is wider so that you can see how useful it is in this scenario. The camera is, you know, over 5 feet away from me. It's probably like 10, maybe 12 feet away. And so I'm on a 35mm lens, I'm still getting a wide shot, and I'm able to, as I'm filming myself, dial in the focus point, which is incredibly useful. I think that's something that I've seen as an obstacle for a lot of people on YouTube, or anytime that someone's filming themselves. That's a big obstacle. Everyone always uses these wide angle lenses. They use like a 24mm or something like that, sometimes even wider, which, you know, just looks kind of warpy and weird, and you have to, and the reason for that is you have to get the camera so close to you to be able to adjust that manual focus, or the alternative is you have to have a camera system that uses autofocus, which is also a really good option, especially if you're in that caliber. I get it, you don't need to have a Komodo and have a full manual focus system. But in this scenario, you know, I have a red Komodo, I want to shoot on it. You know, for YouTube, I usually shoot ProRes and what have you. But then I still get that dynamic range and just the juicy, nice looking image that the Komodo provides. But yeah, that's always been a challenge. I've always had to do quite like wide shot, shoot at 18mm or something along those lines, just to get myself close enough to set that focus point, because I don't fully trust the autofocus on it yet. And so, yeah, this provides a good alternative. I have way more flexibility in my shots now. I can go much wider. I can shoot at much, you know, dialed in focus lengths, like 35mm, 50mm, what have you. And it'll actually work because I can pull back far enough and then just precisely dial in that focus on my iPad using this tool. And so, yeah, hopefully that gives you a quick kind of overview of this app, and also this feature, being able to pull and dial in focus. Again, I wouldn't say that it's not locked in enough to use in like incredibly professional environments. If you're in a situation where you have someone operating the camera, they're in a gimbal, there's lots of movement, and you need a first AC to be able to very precisely dial that in order to produce the most professional results. I don't think this is that solution. I think this is a few steps back from that solution. This is for, you know, whether you're filming yourself. This is for if you have simpler shots where you need to rack focus, or just be able to kind of control the focus a little bit, but there's not, you know, a ton of movement. I think this would actually work decently if you had handheld shots and there's not a ton of movement in it. You're just kind of locked onto a subject and have that little bit of movement, but you just need to, you know, work that focus a little bit to dial it in. I think it could work decently in that scenario. But yeah, hopefully that gave you a good overview. If you want to see more videos like this on the Komodo or just filmmaking in general, go ahead, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and that'll just make sure that you see these videos and it gets pushed, and yeah, you're able to get your eyes on it. So anyway, that's all that I have. I will see you in the next one.